And then we go on to the main event of Kenny Omega and Hangman Page for the AEW Championship. And they aired this spectacular video of Hangman riding through the empty streets of Minnesota as on a horse, as there's footage of him losing to Jericho, costing the Bucks, the breakup, all playing on the buildings in Minnesota. He pulls up to the Target Center, gets off the horse, and enters the building. What an amazing video this was.
Great looking entrance video. I think like a still shot of this leaked on the internet, maybe in the weeks ahead of it was just like Hangman Page on a horse in the middle of the street. And that alone I thought like was enough to pique my interest. And to see the actual video, it was really well done. Great. It was awesome. But it was also one of those cases where like you knew exactly who was going to win this match.
Wait, I think we knew from the second.
Knew. Yeah.
Like, honestly, if you had any bit of doubt, it was just so clear what the outcome needed to be. I think all night long, to be quite honest.
Oh yeah,
it's not in the lead up. Yeah.
It's not a criticism at all. But it's just one of those things where like it just took me back to like WrestleMania 12, where like even as a kid, even as a young Mark, like I knew the guy coming down the zip line was probably going to beat Brett.
Well, there was Kenny Omega coming out, and yes, his title reign was looking, the minutes were numbered. Don Callis got involved early behind Paul Turner's back, choking Page. There's a lot of fighting on the floor, and Omega gets into his routine of the Snapdragons, V-Trigger, and then Page stops the One-Winged Angel with a victory roll. Omega goes to the Tiger Driver 98, only gets a 2 count. Page hit the fallaway slam moonsault combination of Banditos off the top. That looked great. And then Page came off the top post with a flying clothesline, putting Omega through a table at ringside while also crashing his knee into the desk. And Page goes for the buckshot lariat, but Omega just collapses. So in the ring they go, and Page misses with his own version of the V-Trigger and hits a pop-up powerbomb, goes for the buckshot, but Omega pulls Paul Turner into the way, and Paul Turner takes the buckshot lariat. So Callis gets involved, Page nails him, and it must have been a hell of a punch because Don Callis was unconscious for the whole rest of this, from this punch. He ducks the belt shot from Omega, deadeye, there's no referee, Aubrey Edwards runs down, and Kenny Omega, perfect kick out at the very last moment. And Omega comes back with a bunch of knees, and Omega hits the V-Trigger, and Page responds with a discus lariat. Both men are down. Omega's landing Kawada kicks. Page roars in his face, takes him down with a lariat, and then the Young Bucks come out, and they're hobbling, selling the injuries from the Falls Count Anywhere match. And Page and Omega felt, you know what, before we get into this closing sequence, how about we drop each other as close to straight on our heads as possible? Okay, cool. You want to both do it? Yeah, we'll both drop each other. High angle, right on our necks. These look just insane. And then Page, he sets up for the buckshot lariat and goes into a V-Trigger. Page then counters the One-Winged Angel, and Page hits the One-Winged Angel to Kenny Omega, who kicks out of his own finisher. Page goes to the apron. He looks down, and he sees Nick Jackson. They look eye to eye, and he hits a buckshot to the back of Omega, goes to the opposite side, looks down, and Matt Jackson gives him the nod, and he hits the buckshot lariat, pinning Kenny Omega in 25 minutes and 11 seconds. The pop for this 3 count was insane. This whole crowd exploded, and Hangman Page is your new champion. The Dark Order came out to celebrate. They presented him with a beer, and they all hugged. And no one came out to attack Page. There was no cash in. So much heat was completely extinguished here in the Target Center. Golden opportunity ruined, and they're left with a super popular babyface that this whole arena was in love with. I mean, complete blowing title change, in my opinion, Way. The heels that could have been benefiting from this, where the crowd leaves, I hate this company. I'm never buying another ticket again. All of that was squandered.
What are they going to do for the next pay-per-view? If not a rematch, You know, come on. They should have been disputed finish, really. Uh, hey, the finish we all expected, and it was every bit as wonderful when we all saw it. I loved it. I loved it. What I didn't see coming was maybe the bit of acting at the end and the bit of melodrama at the end with the Bucks giving the nods, which was like I thought perfect. It was like absolutely the right amount of kind of like Shawn Michaels style, like perfect cheesy acting for a professional wrestling match.
Yeah.
And
Hangman did not look at his hands first before checking with the Bucks.
looking at his hands. What do you mean? What's that?
That was a staple of some of the NXT storytelling.
Oh, okay. He didn't say I'm sorry, I love you either, but Matt did wink like and said good. Like it's so corny to repeat, but like it's perfect in pro wrestling. I think you need certainly some of these elements, and it takes skill to pull off. And I thought this was just the right amount here, tying back to the bigger story because this was very much a storytelling match. And I think in a simple look from both of the Bucks, it was like they were conveying that they understand that the person that they've looked down on this entire time has finally overcome all of his inadequacies, and that he is tonight. He's better than Kenny. He is better than the Bucks. He's better than the Elite. It was a wonderful finish. I really liked it, and the end of a very wonderful match. I did feel maybe the crowd, a little bit quiet, like maybe subdued, but they were captivated, and they all wanted and were invested in seeing this guy win. So, yeah, what did you think of the match, John?
I thought it was a great match. I mean, all credit to them. This late in the show, following all that they did, that was a significant task on their shoulders for it. But I thought there was a lot of creative stuff that was mixed into the match. I thought they saved the idea of Kenny taking the one-winged angel. I thought was that was a cool spot. The ending is I just thought it was a great crowning of Hangman Page, where it felt like you've waited for this story long enough, and it's not about just keep extending it and extending it. Like, you gotta strike when it's hot, and it felt like, man, when that 3 count hit, this whole crowd roared, and I think it was the perfect timing. It just seemed like a great setup for Hangman Page.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal pay-per-view.
It really was. It really was. Top to bottom, I thought it had tremendous energy throughout the entire thing. Whereas All Out, I thought was built off of great wrestling, but I think you were left thinking about surprises. This one wasn't really, didn't really have any big surprises, I would say, other than Jay Lethal, if you really would consider that. But I would say this one was more so built off of incredible wrestling and very satisfying conclusions to story in the main event. So.
Which is also, I think, notable, the fact that they did not feel that pressure of having to go out and just sign somebody to have that buzz that people are going to be comparing to the last pay-per-view. Like, this was more so, we've got our main players in place, and now it's executing the product. Like, it's surprises are going to get giant reaction. It's like pretty much what is going to top what you did in September? I don't know if there's anybody out there you can bring in that's going to generate that level of interest, but you can always go to that well. It's like people are going to pop for new faces, and this was more so, we're not going that direction. We're just going to put out a kick-ass, non-stop wrestling show for 4.5 hours, and that's what they did. And, to varying degrees, like some matches not as strong as others, but as a whole, like, this was an outstanding show.
When you have, I think, a story as well built as the Hangman Page story, when you have a character that the fans are as invested in to win a championship as Hangman Page, there's nothing that should top that at the end of the show. That should be the lasting thing. And for AEW, I mean, Page really is the first guy that they built from the ground up into becoming a champion. And I think it's as much of a win for AEW as it is for Hangman Page himself. So that to me should have been the biggest talking point coming out of this.
And you come out of it where you've got Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson, and I think you have big contenders in MJF and CM Punk. It's like they have a lot of interesting options of where they can go, not even taking into account like New Japan options or something in left field that they might have for Hangman Page beyond Danielson in the immediate. But
and that's Page. Now Kenny is free too to face any of those guys. Yeah.
Or I mean, here's a guy that it's like, who knows, like what his if he needs some time off. I mean, this guy has, it just seems he is always dealing with some kind of injury. It's not the worst thing, like for him to disappear for a while and then come back refreshed when you're ready to go with, I mean, God knows how many ideas you could have lined up for him.
And what does this mean for the Bucks? Are they baby faces now? What does it mean for their association with Adam Cole? Does Bobby Fish and potentially a incoming former member of the Undisputed Era? How does
that's the main story. I think that's the main story coming out of this is the state of the Elite.
Mm-hmm. Very fascinating.